Eliana Reyes stood at attention in the back row of cadets, her gray uniform identical to the others yet somehow making her stand out even more. She was the only human at the Galactic Defense Academy, and everyone made sure she never forgot it. "Straighten that posture, human," barked Instructor Krell, a tall Vexorian with blue scales and forearms. His upper set of limbs crossed over his chest while the lower pair remained behind his back. "Your kind may have flexible spines, but in this academy we stand proper." A ripple of quiet laughter passed through the formation. Eliana's jaw tightened, but she pulled her shoulders back even more, staring straight ahead. 362 days. That's how long she had endured the snide comments. The isolation and the constant scrutiny, yes. "Instructor," she replied, her voice steady despite the burning in her chest. The massive training hall of the academy housed 58 cadets from 23 different species, all considered the finest tactical minds their civilizations had to offer. The academy floated in neutral space, a spinning ring structure that had trained the Galactic Union's defense forces for over 800 years. Humans had only been admitted for the past decade after Earth finally joined the Union. "All right, cadets," Krell continued, pacing before them. "Tomorrow begins the species' tactical demonstrations. As is tradition, each representative will showcase their race's approach to combat and strategy in the battle simulation chamber." Eliana's heart beat faster. The demonstrations were the most important event of the second year. Each cadet would program and execute a simulation based on their species' historical battles and tactics. Success meant respect, failure meant shame, not just for the cadet but for their entire species. "The order has been determined," Krell announced, activating a large holographic display. Names appeared in a long list. Eliana scanned for her own, a knot forming in her stomach when she saw it at the very bottom. Thraxus, a hulking Duraxian with ridge-like armor plates along his shoulders, snorted loudly. "Saving the primitive for last, I see." His voice carried through the hall, intentionally just loud enough for instructors to pretend they hadn't heard. "Better to end with comedy," added Ziva, a lithe Medusan with translucent skin that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, her tentacle-like hair coiled in amusement. Eliana kept her eyes forward, face neutral. The greatest challenge of the academy hadn't been the grueling physical tests or the complex strategic equations. It had been maintaining her composure in the face of constant derision. After the formation was dismissed, Eliana headed toward the academy's central library. The vast chamber contained the tactical records of thousands of years of galactic warfare, all accessible through hovering data terminals. She needed to finalize her simulation parameters before tomorrow. "Cadet Reyes." Eliana turned to see Commander Vexlor approaching. The elderly Althosian moved with surprising grace despite his age, his gray skin wrinkled around kind eyes. Unlike most of the Academy's leadership, Commander Vexlor had always treated her with respect. "Sir." She saluted smartly. "Walk with me," he said, gesturing down a quieter corridor. When they were alone, he spoke in a lower voice. "Your demonstration is tomorrow." "Yes, sir." "Last in the order." "That's not a disadvantage, cadet. It means yours will be the demonstration everyone remembers." Eliana tried to believe that. "I've studied our historical tactics thoroughly, but you worry that human military history won't impress the others." Vexler finished her thought. "You shouldn't. Every species brings something unique to the Union, that's why we're stronger together." "With respect, sir, the others don't see it that way. They think humans are just primitive apes who got lucky finding faster than light travel." Vexler's face hardened. "Then prove them wrong, cadet." "I intend to, sir." The commander nodded. "Good. I'll be watching with interest." He turned to leave but paused. "One more thing, cadet. The ancient archive scanner will be active during the demonstrations." Eliana frowned. "The genetic battle record scanner? I thought that was just a myth." "Oh, it's quite real. The founders built it into the academy itself. It reads the genetic memory of each species, confirming the authenticity of tactical data." His eyes twinkled. "Sometimes it reveals surprising things about our shared history." With that cryptic comment, the commander walked away, leaving Eliana puzzled but somehow more determined. That evening in the mess hall, Eliana sat alone as usual. She picked at her food, a standardized nutrient paste adjusted for human digestive systems. It tasted like cardboard. "Look at it," came Thraxus's loud voice from the popular table. Using primitive hand tools to eat, probably can't even absorb nutrients properly. Ziva laughed, her skin flashing patterns of mockery. I heard humans still fight with projectile weapons. Imagine bringing bullets to an ion battle. My father says they only got into the Union because the Althosians felt sorry for them after their colony disasters. Added another cadet. Eliana's fork froze halfway to her mouth. The colony disasters were still a raw wound for humanity. 12 outer colonies had been lost in a series of catastrophic events before first contact. Millions dead. The official records called them natural disasters. Solar flares, asteroid impacts, atmospheric failures. But there had always been rumors. She put down her fork, no longer hungry. Instead, she pulled up her tactical simulation on her personal data pad, going over it one more time. The scenario she'd chosen was based on the Battle of Thermopylae, an ancient Earth conflict where a small force had held off a much larger one through superior positioning and tactics. Is this seat taken? Eliana looked up, surprised to see Lox, a quiet Vesperan cadet with feathery scales and large, sensitive eyes. Unlike most, Lox had never openly mocked her, though he'd never spoken to her either. No, she said cautiously. Lox sat down, his movement graceful despite his awkward body structure. Your demonstration is tomorrow. Yes, the others are planning to disrupt it somehow. I thought you should know. Eliana's eyes narrowed. Why are you telling me this? Lox's feathers rippled in what might have been discomfort. Because it's not fair. The demonstrations are meant to honor each species' approach to warfare. Sabotaging yours dishonors the entire tradition. Before she could respond, Lox stood up quickly. I've said too much. Good luck, human. He hurried away as Thraxus looked in their direction with suspicion. That night, Eliana couldn't sleep. She lay in her small quarters, staring at the ceiling where she had projected star maps. A small comfort that reminded her of home. Somewhere in that vast map was Earth and its remaining colonies, struggling to find their place in the greater galactic community. Tomorrow would determine whether she helped that cause or set it back. One human representing billions. The morning arrived too quickly. Eliana prepared meticulously, checking her uniform 3 times before heading to the simulation chamber. The demonstrations had already begun. Through the day, she watched as each species showcased their battle tactics. The Duraxians demonstrated overwhelming force. The Medusans showed their skill at deception and misdirection. The Vesperans presented complex coordinated attacks. Each demonstration ended with respectful applause, and the quiet hum of the ancient archive scanner confirming the tactical authenticity. Finally, as the Academy's 3 suns began to set, it was Eliana's turn. Instructor Krell's voice boomed through the chamber. Final demonstration, Human Tactics, presented by Cadet Eliana Reyes of Earth. The crowd of cadets and instructors fell silent, but Eliana could feel the anticipation. They were waiting for her to fail, to prove that humans didn't belong. As she walked to the center of the chamber, Commander Vexler caught her eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod. Thraxus called out from the crowd, "Show us how primitives fight, human." The other cadets laughed openly now, no longer hiding their contempt. Eliana took a deep breath and stepped onto the simulation platform. She would show them exactly what humans could do. The jeers grew louder as the simulation began to load. Eliana stood tall despite them, ready to prove humanity's worth, not knowing that the ancient archive scanner was about to change everything. The battle simulation chamber hummed to life around Eliana. The circular room transformed as holographic projectors created a 3-dimensional star field. The watching cadets and instructors seemed to fade into darkness as the stars brightened. Eliana now stood on what appeared to be the command bridge of a small fleet vessel. Simulation parameters loading, announced the Academy AI in a neutral voice. Human tactical demonstration. Battle of Thermopylae naval adaptation. Eliana frowned. Something was wrong. The title of her simulation had changed. She had prepared a straightforward recreation of the ancient battle, showing how positioning and terrain could be used by a smaller force. But the parameters on her control console showed something different, a space battle, scenario with impossible odds. Cadet faces 8 dreadnoughts, and 26 support vessels with only 3 light cruisers, the AI continued. Survival probability, 0.03%. Whispers rippled through the watching crowd. These parameters were beyond unfair, they were impossible. No cadet had ever faced such overwhelming odds in a demonstration. Eliana's eyes darted to the instructor console where Krell watched with arms crossed and a satisfied expression. Next to him, Thraxus and several other cadets wore similar smug looks. Sabotage. Just as Lox had warned. For a moment, Eliana considered protesting, demanding the correct parameters be loaded. But she knew what would happen. They would call her weak, say humans couldn't handle pressure. The damage would be done. Instead, she straightened her back and addressed the AI. Confirm simulation start. Simulation commencing in 3, 2, 1. The bridge came fully alive around her with holographic crew members at various stations. Through the main view screen, Eliana could see her 3 small ships against the backdrop of space. And in the distance, the approaching enemy armada. Massive dreadnoughts, each capable of destroying her entire fleet, led the formation. Commander Vexler's voice came quietly through her earpiece for her alone. Remember, Cadet, every species brings something unique. Eliana's mind raced. The Battle of Thermopylae had been about using narrow terrain to negate the enemy's numerical advantage. Here in open space, she had no such terrain. Or did she? Tactical analysis, she commanded the simulation. A 3-dimensional map appeared before her. The enemy fleet approached from the direction of a dense asteroid field, too dense for their large ships to navigate. Between her position and the asteroids was a massive gas giant with strong gravitational pull and severe radiation bands. A plan began to form. All ships, new course, she ordered. Full speed toward the gas giant, radiation shields at maximum. The simulated crew looked uncertain but obeyed. Her 3 small cruisers accelerated toward the gas giant, while the enemy fleet adjusted course to pursue. She's running, someone jeered from the audience. Eliana ignored them, focusing entirely on her strategy. As her ships neared the gas giant, she issued more commands. Ships 2 and 3, reverse thrusters at my mark. Ship 1, prepare for slingshot maneuver around the primary radiation band. Her hands flew over the controls, plotting a course that would take her lead ship dangerously close to the gas giant. Mark! 2 of her ships suddenly decelerated, while the third, her command ship, continued forward and then used the gas giant's gravity to slingshot around at tremendous speed. The pursuing enemy had to split their formation, with some following the 2 ships and others adjusting to intercept her lead vessel. Now, Eliana shouted, Ships 2 and 3, emergency jump to coordinates Alpha. Her 2 ships disappeared into hyperspace, confusing the enemy fleet. Meanwhile, her command ship emerged from the slingshot maneuver on a direct course for the asteroid field. They're breaking apart, muttered Krell, loud enough for others to hear. Typical human cowardice, but Eliana wasn't retreating. As her command ship reached the edge of the asteroid field, she ordered, Deploy all mining charges. Her ship released dozens of explosive devices into the asteroid field, and then executed a tight turn that sent it skimming along the field's edge. The enemy dreadnoughts, too large to follow, began firing long-range weapons. Mining charges detonated, reported the tactical officer. The charges exploded not to destroy the enemy, but to propel hundreds of asteroids toward them. The massive chunks of rock and ice hurtled toward the enemy fleet, forcing them to cease fire and take evasive action. Several smaller support ships collided with asteroids and were destroyed. Meanwhile, her other 2 ships reappeared from hyperspace on the opposite side of the enemy formation. All ships, target the flagship's propulsion systems, Eliana ordered. Fire everything we have. The synchronized attack caught the enemy by surprise. With their formation disrupted by the asteroid assault, they couldn't coordinate their defenses. Eliana's ships managed to cripple the enemy flagship's engines before darting away again. The simulation continued for 20 more minutes as Eliana employed hit-and-run tactics, using the environment to her advantage. She never directly engaged the superior enemy force, but instead created chaos in their formation, turning their numbers against them in the confined space near the gas giant and asteroid field. When the simulation finally ended, 5 of her crew were dead, 1 of her ships was heavily damaged, but the enemy fleet was in disarray, with their command structure broken and 7 vessels destroyed. The impossible scenario had not resulted in victory, but it had achieved something no one expected: survival with honor. The lights in the chamber gradually returned to normal. The holographic battle faded away, leaving Eliana standing alone on the simulation platform. The room was completely silent, Even Thraxus and his friends seemed stunned. Instructor Krell's forearms hung limply at his sides, his expression unreadable. Commander Vexilor was the first to speak. "Explain your tactics, Cadet Reyes." Eliana took a deep breath. "Sir, human military history is full of examples where smaller forces faced overwhelming odds. We learned that direct confrontation in such situations is foolish. Instead, we use environmental factors, psychological warfare, and mobility." "You didn't try to win," stated Krell, a note of confusion in his voice. "No, sir. Victory was statistically impossible given the parameters, so I fought for something else. Survival while inflicting maximum damage to enemy command structure. In human history, sometimes a battle is fought not to win that day, but to make winning possible tomorrow." A murmur ran through the assembled cadets. This approach was foreign to many of them. Most species in the Union had evolved on single worlds with abundant resources. Warfare for them had always been about dominance and territory. But humans had evolved as nomadic hunters on a harsh world, learning to survive against stronger predators through cunning and endurance. "The demonstration is technically complete," Krell announced. "The cadet has—" A low humming interrupted him as a section of the chamber's wall began to glow. A cylindrical device emerged from the wall, its ancient design contrasting with the modern technology of the Academy. The device rotated until it faced directly at Eliana. "The ancient archive scanner," whispered someone in the crowd. The scanner had activated automatically for each species after their demonstration, confirming the genetic authenticity of their tactical presentation. But something was different this time. The scanner's light was red instead of the usual blue. Eliana stood frozen as the red beam swept over her body. The scanner's ancient machinery clicked and whirred, louder than it had been for any previous cadet. The crowd backed away instinctively. A holographic display appeared above the scanner, showing strange symbols that slowly translated into modern galactic standard. "Human tactical genetic memory accessed. Warning. Classified historical data detected." Commander Vexilor stepped forward, his expression concerned. "This is unusual." The scanner continued processing, its mechanisms working harder than anyone had seen before. Finally, new text appeared on the display. "Human record logged as planets erased, not enemies. Containment Protocol Alpha. Classification, Extinction Event Preventers." Gasps echoed around the chamber. The scanner had never before revealed such a designation for any species. Eliana stared at the words, confusion washing over her. Planets erased? Extinction event preventers? What did it mean? Before anyone could speak, the scanner projected a series of images. They showed human ships deliberately destroying entire worlds, human colony worlds. The dates matched the colony disasters from before first contact. The cadets who had been jeering Eliana now backed away from her in fear. Even Thraxus looked pale. "Impossible," Instructor Krell whispered. "The historical record states these were natural disasters." "The historical record was altered," Commander Vexilor said quietly. "The scanner accesses genetic memory which cannot be falsified." He turned to look at Eliana with new eyes. "It seems there is much about human history that has been kept from us, and perhaps from humans themselves." Security officers entered the chamber surrounding Eliana. Their expressions were no longer contemptuous but wary, even fearful. "Cadet Reyes, you will come with us," the lead officer stated. "By order of Academy Command, you are remanded to protective custody pending investigation of this historical anomaly." As Eliana was led from the chamber, she caught a final glimpse of the scanner's display. The words burned into her mind. "Human record logged as planets erased, not enemies." What had her people done, and why had it be the detention chamber was small but comfortable? Eliana sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the blank wall opposite her. 6 hours had passed since security had brought her here. 6 hours of questions racing through her mind with no answers in sight. The scanner's words repeated endlessly in her thoughts. Human record logged as planets erased, not enemies. What did it mean? Had humans destroyed their own colonies? Why would they do such a thing? And why had this information been hidden from everyone, including humans themselves? The door slid open and Commander Vexilor entered. The elderly Althosian looked tired, the wrinkles on his gray face deeper than usual. He carried a datapad in one hand and a small box in the other. Commander, Eliana said, standing at attention despite her status as a detainee. At ease. Cadet, Vexler said, gesturing for her to sit back down. He pulled up the room's only chair and sat across from her. This is not an official interrogation. Consider it a historical consultation. Sir, I don't understand what happened. I know nothing about humans destroying colonies. I believe you. Vexilor placed the data pad on his lap. The colony disasters occurred before your birth, and the true nature of those events was apparently classified at the highest levels. But why would Earth destroy its own colonies? It doesn't make sense. Vexler's expression grew solemn. That's what we're trying to determine. The Academy Council has been in emergency session since the scanner's revelation. I've been granted temporary access to sealed archives. He activated the data pad and a holographic display appeared between them. It showed a map of human expansion before first contact with the Galactic Union. Humans had established 17 colonies before joining the Union, Vexler explained. 5 remain today. The other 12 were lost in what official records call natural disasters. Eliana nodded. Every human knows this history. The disasters are why Earth sought membership in the Union, for protection and support. Yes, that was the official reason. Vexilor manipulated the display to show the 12 lost colonies highlighted in red. But the scanner revealed something different. It suggests these colonies were deliberately destroyed by human forces. That's impossible, Eliana protested. Billions died in those disasters. We would never, not without an overwhelming reason, Vexler interrupted. The scanner classified humans as extinction event preventers. That designation is extremely rare in galactic history. It suggests your species took drastic action to prevent something worse. He tapped the small box he had brought with him. This is a secured data core, containing classified information about the period before human contact with the Union. It requires genetic authentication from both a human and an Althosian elder to access. Eliana stared at the box. You think this contains answers? I hope so. Vexler placed his palm on one side of the box. Place your hand on the other side, Cadet. Hesitantly, Eliana did as instructed. The box hummed briefly, then clicked open. Inside was a small crystal data node that glowed with a soft blue light. Vexler removed the node and inserted it into his data pad. The holographic display changed, showing a classified report header with both Earth and Althosian security markers. The Althosians were the first Union species to make contact with humans, Vexilor explained. What few know is that we had been observing Earth for decades before official first contact. The display showed surveillance images of Earth from orbit, dating back nearly a century before first contact. We watched as humans developed spaceflight and began colonizing their solar system. Vexilor continued. We were preparing to make contact when your species achieved faster-than-light travel and began establishing extrasolar colonies. Why didn't you contact us then? Eliana asked. Union protocol for first contact requires a species to develop FTL independently, but there was another reason. Vexler's voice lowered. We detected something unusual about human expansion patterns. The display shifted to show the original 17 human colonies. Unlike the neat, orderly expansion patterns of most species, human colonies were scattered in seemingly random locations. Most species colonized the nearest habitable worlds first, Vexler said. Humans didn't. They selected worlds that appeared strategically positioned, often bypassing more hospitable planets to establish colonies on challenging worlds. Eliana frowned. I never thought about it, but you're right. Earth history just says we were adventurous and willing to tackle difficult environments. There was more to it, Vexler said. According to this report, Althosian observers noticed something else. Humans were placing monitoring stations in seemingly empty regions of space, particularly in sectors 29 through 35. The display highlighted a region of space far from the main Union territories. That area is mostly empty space, Eliana noted. Why monitor it? That's what the observers wondered. Vexilor scrolled through more data. Then approximately 80 years ago, something happened. Human communications became encrypted. Military vessels were redirected to the outer colonies, and a state of emergency was declared throughout human space. I've never heard of this in our history. It appears to have been deliberately removed from public records. Vexler tapped another section of the report. Althosian long-range sensors detected unusual energy signatures in Sector 31, followed by the complete loss of communication with the human colony in that sector. The first colony disaster, Eliana whispered. Yes, official records call it a stellar flare that overwhelmed the colony's shields. But this report indicates it was something else. Vexilor looked up from the pad, his eyes troubled. The Althosian observers recorded a quantum disruption wave emanating from that sector, unlike anything seen before. Following this event, human military activity increased dramatically. The display showed images of human warships gathering near the remaining colonies. Then over the next 3 years, 11 more colonies went dark one by one. Each time, the official record cited a different natural disaster. Asteroid impacts, atmospheric failures, tectonic events. The pattern was too precise to be natural, Vexler said, and each event was preceded by the evacuation of approximately 30% of the colony's population and the arrival of human military forces. Eliana felt sick. Are you saying we deliberately destroyed our own colonies after partial evacuation? What about the people who weren't evacuated? Vexler's expression was grim. According to this report, they were sacrificed. A calculated loss to prevent something worse. What could possibly justify such action? Instead of answering, Vexler tapped the final section of the report. The holographic display showed a strange, shifting mass of darkness that seemed to absorb light around it. Sensor data scrolled alongside the image, most of it incomprehensible even to Eliana's trained eye. The Althosians called it the consumption, Vexler said quietly. A quantum-level entity, or perhaps a collective of entities that appeared at the edge of human space. It consumed energy, matter, even the fabric of space-time itself. Like a black hole? Eliana asked, trying to understand. No, black holes follow physical laws. This seemed to defy them. It could travel faster than light. It could split and reform, and most disturbingly, it seemed drawn to conscious life, particularly technological civilizations. The display showed the spread of the entity across several star systems, accelerating as it encountered human colonies. The humans discovered it first, Vexilor continued. Their monitoring stations in the empty sectors had been watching for it. According to this report, Earth had detected quantum anomalies suggesting something was coming from the void between galaxies. That's why they established colonies in strategic positions, as a detection network. But why destroy the colonies once it was detected? Vexler scrolled to the next section. Because they found a weakness in the entity. It could be injured by massive energy releases combined with specific quantum frequency emissions. When a colony was consumed, the humans had learned to trigger their fusion reactors to explode in a precisely calculated manner, generating a quantum resonance that damaged the consumption. So each colony was bait and a weapon? Eliana couldn't keep the horror from her voice. A sacrifice, Vexilor corrected gently. Each destruction set the entity back, forcing it to retreat and regenerate. The humans used this time to evacuate what they could from the next targeted colony and prepare the trap again. But billions died. Yes. Vexler's voice was heavy with sorrow. A terrible choice made by your leaders. But according to these calculations, he pointed to complex equations on the display, if the consumption had reached the core human worlds, it would have gained enough mass and energy to spread throughout the galaxy. The estimated death toll would have been trillions, possibly leading to the extinction of all technological life in the Milky Way. Eliana sat in stunned silence. Her people had made an unthinkable choice, sacrifice billions to save trillions. The weight of it was almost too much to comprehend. After the 12th colony was destroyed, Vexilor continued, the entity retreated beyond sensor range. Human forces maintained their guard, but the immediate threat had passed. When the Althosians made official first contact 2 years later, the human leadership requested that the true nature of the colony disasters be classified. Why hide it? Wouldn't then hidden from history? The academy mess hall fell silent when Eliana entered. Every cadet, every instructor, every service worker stopped what they were doing to stare at her. It had been 2 days since the scanner's revelation and her subsequent detention. Now, wearing her uniform with the new senior cadet insignia, she felt more conspicuous than ever. She walked to the food dispensers with her head high, just as Commander Vexilor had advised. The silence followed her, broken only by the soft whir of the machine as it prepared her meal. When she turned around with her tray, she found an open path to an empty table. All the cadets had shifted to clear the way for her. It wasn't respect she saw in their eyes, though. It was fear. "May I join you, Senior Cadet Reyes?" The voice belonged to Instructor Krell. The Vexorian stood nearby, his forearms at his sides in a formal posture. "Of course, Instructor," Eliana replied, keeping her voice neutral. Krell sat across from her. The mess hall remained quiet, everyone watching this interaction with undisguised interest. "I owe you an apology," Krell said, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "The simulation parameters were altered without authorization. The cadets responsible have been disciplined." Eliana nodded slightly. "Thank you for addressing it, sir." "The parameters weren't the only thing altered," Krell continued. "It appears our understanding of human history was incomplete as well." "That's putting it mildly," Eliana said, unable to keep a slight edge from her voice. Krell's upper arms made a gesture of acknowledgement. "The Academy Council has called an assembly for this afternoon. All personnel are required to attend." He paused, studying her with new intensity. "They will be discussing the scanner's findings and their implications." "I'll be there," Eliana said. "Good." Krell stood. "And Reyes, your performance in the simulation was impressive, even with the altered parameters." With that, he walked away, leaving Eliana alone at her table. She had just started eating when another cadet approached, Lox, the Vesperan who had warned her about the sabotage. "May I?" he asked, indicating the seat across from her. Eliana nodded, and Lox sat down with his tray. "You were right about the sabotage," she said. "I wish I had done more to stop it." Lox's feathery scales rippled with what she now recognized as regret. "But perhaps it was meant to happen this way. Without the impossible scenario, you might not have demonstrated the true nature of human tactics, and the scanner might not have revealed what it did." "Maybe." Eliana pushed her food around on her plate. "Everyone's looking at me differently now. Can you blame them? The Academy teaches the military history of every Union species. To learn that such a significant part of human history was hidden." Lox's large eyes blinked slowly. "It raises questions about what else might be hidden." Before she could respond, her communication device chimed with an incoming message. It was from Commander Vexler, requesting her presence in the archives immediately. "I have to go," she told Lox, standing up. "Thank you for sitting with me." Lox nodded. "Not everyone fears what the scanner revealed, Eliana. Some of us are simply reassessing." The archives were located in the deepest level of the Academy, a vast chamber filled with data crystals containing the collective military knowledge of the Galactic Union. When Eliana arrived, she found not only Commander Vexilor but also Admiral Zhen, the head of the Academy, and several council members. "Cadet Reyes," Admiral Zhen greeted her. The Admiral was a Taurian, tall and imposing, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on her face. "Thank you for coming quickly." "Yes, Admiral." Eliana saluted, at ease. Admiral Zhen gestured to a large display table where a star chart was projected. "We have been reviewing the classified data regarding the entity your people faced, the consumption." The star chart showed the regions where the 12 human colonies had been destroyed, each marked with a red dot. "What you see here is the path of the entity through human space," Vexlor explained. "Each red marker indicates a colony that was sacrificed to halt its advance. After the 12th colony was destroyed, the entity retreated beyond sensor range," Admiral Zhen continued. "According to the records, human forces monitored that region of space for nearly 20 years before declaring the threat contained. That's when Earth applied for Union membership," Vexilor added. "With their military stretched thin monitoring for the consumption's return, they needed allies." Eliana studied the chart. So the official story about natural disasters was a cover. Earth knew the truth would complicate their admission to the Union. Precisely. Admiral Zhen manipulated the display, zooming out to show a larger section of the galaxy. "The Althosians supported Earth's petition for membership, knowing what your species had sacrificed. The truth was classified at the highest levels with only a handful of individuals granted access." "Until now," Eliana said. "Until now," the Admiral agreed. "The ancient archive scanner cannot be deceived. It reads genetic memory directly. When it scanned you, it found the truth encoded in your DNA, passed down from the generations that witnessed these events." Eliana frowned. "But I don't remember any of this. How can it be in my DNA?" Genetic memory is not conscious memory, Vexilor explained. It is information encoded at a cellular level, passed from generation to generation. The scanner was designed by the founders to access this information, ensuring that species could not falsify their military histories when joining the Academy. Admiral Jen pointed to another section of the display. We have been analyzing the classified human reports on the consumption. Their scientists believed it was not a natural phenomenon but an ancient entity, or collection of entities that exists in the void between galaxies, periodically entering the Milky Way to feed. Feed on what? Ileana asked. Energy, matter, life, particularly advanced civilizations. The Admiral's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. The human monitoring stations were set up based on ancient astronomical observations, suggesting a cyclic pattern to strange stellar extinctions every few thousand years. So, humans knew it was coming? Before it arrived, they suspected, Vexilor clarified. They had discovered unusual quantum signatures in ancient stellar remains that matched theoretical models of space-time disruption. When they developed faster-than-light technology, they established monitoring stations in the regions where their models predicted the consumption might appear. And they were right, Eliana said softly. Yes, Admiral Jen confirmed. When the consumption appeared, they were the only species prepared to face it. Without their sacrifice, it might have reached the densely populated core worlds of the Union. One of the council members, a Merovan with translucent skin that revealed shadowy organs beneath, spoke up. What troubles us most is not what happened in the past, but what may happen in the future. The display changed again, showing a section of space far from Union territory, near the edge of the galaxy. 3 days ago, a Union survey vessel in this region detected quantum fluctuations matching the pattern described in the classified human reports, Admiral Jen said, the same signature that preceded the consumption's first appearance. Eliana felt a chill run through her body. It's coming back? We don't know for certain, Vexilor said, but the similarities are concerning enough that the Council has ordered a full investigation. Admiral Jen fixed her 4 eyes on Eliana. Which brings us to you, Cadet Reyes. As the only human currently at the Academy, you have become unexpectedly significant. Me? Why? Because the Assembly this afternoon will reveal the truth about human history to the entire Academy, Admiral Jen explained. We need someone to represent humanity who understands both Union protocols and the tactical thinking that allowed your species to survive the consumption. But I only learned about this 2 days ago, Eliana protested. I'm hardly an expert. You don't need to be, Vexilor assured her. We've contacted Earth's government. They're sending representatives, including military historians and scientists who studied the consumption, but they won't arrive for at least a week. Until then, Admiral Jen continued, you will serve as humanity's voice at the Academy. The other cadets will have questions, many questions. They need to see that humans are not something to be feared, but respected for the choices they made. Eliana felt the weight of this responsibility settling on her shoulders. What exactly do you need me to do? First, attend the assembly at my side, Admiral Jen said. Listen to the briefing. After that, you'll participate in a special session of the Advanced Tactics class to discuss human strategy during the consumption crisis. We've also arranged for you to access the full classified records, Vexilor added. You need to understand your own history if you're going to explain it to others. Eliana nodded slowly. I'll do my best, Admiral. One more thing. Admiral Jen's voice softened slightly. The Union is facing a difficult truth, that one of its member species sacrificed billions of their own people to protect the galaxy, while the rest of us remained ignorant of the threat. This has created political complications. What kind of complications? Eliana asked. The Meravan Council member answered. Some believe this revelation proves humans are too dangerous to trust. A species capable of such calculated sacrifice might turn that same ruthlessness against others. Others view humans as saviors who bore a burden alone that should have been shared by all Union species. 3 weeks had passed since the ancient archive scanner had revealed humanity's hidden history. The Academy had transformed in that time, shifting from an environment of rigid hierarchy to one of urgent preparation. Classes continued, but the curriculum had been modified to include extensive study of the consumption and potential defense strategies. Eliana walked through the corridor toward the Advanced Tactical Training Hall, no longer alone. Lox walked on her left, his feathery scales shimmering in the light. Thraxus surprisingly walked on her right, his armored bulk creating a stark contrast to her smaller human form. Behind them came Ziva and 4 other cadets from different species, all part of the newly formed Consumption Response Team. "The Earth delegation arrives today," Thraxus said, breaking the silence. "Are you nervous?" "A little," Eliana admitted. "These are the people who've known the truth all along, the ones who've been preparing for the Consumption's return since before I was born. They couldn't have prepared adequately without telling the Union," Ziva argued, her bioluminescent skin patterns flashing with agitation. "We've lost decades of potential research and development." "Politics," Lox said simply. "The same reason the Union didn't share information about the Cygnus void entity with the outer territories until it was almost too late." This was new to Eliana. "The Cygnus what?" "Before your species joined the Union," Thraxus explained. "A different threat, but the politics were similar. Core worlds protecting their interests at the expense of the periphery." They reached the training hall doors, which slid open automatically. Inside, the vast chamber had been transformed. The central simulation platform remained, but the surrounding seating had been rearranged into a circular conference layout. Around the walls, holographic displays showed data from the distant sensor stations, now monitoring the quantum fluctuations at the galaxy's edge. Commander Vexilor and Admiral Jen were already present, along with several Academy Council members. New faces were there as well, the Earth delegation that had arrived on the morning transport. The human delegation consisted of 5 people, 3 in military uniforms bearing Admiral's insignia, 1 in civilian scientific attire, and 1 in formal diplomatic dress. They turned as Eliana and her team entered, studying them with interest. Admiral Jen gestured them forward. "Earth delegation, may I present Senior Cadet Eliana Reyes and the Academy's Consumption Response Team." The diplomat from Earth stepped forward, an older woman with silver hair and dark skin. "Senior Cadet Reyes, I am Secretary Chen, representing Earth's government. Your handling of this situation has been exemplary," Eliana saluted formally. "Thank you, Secretary. I've done my best to represent humanity accurately." "More than accurately," said one of the military officers, a tall man with weathered features. "Admiral Karev, Earth Defense Force. Your tactical simulation demonstrated exactly the kind of adaptive thinking that helped us survive the Consumption the first time." "Please, everyone be seated," Admiral Jen directed. "We have much to discuss." As they took their places around the conference circle, the civilian scientist activated the central holographic projector. A 3-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared with a pulsing red marker near the outer rim. "Dr. Natalie Wong, Earth Quantum Physics Division," she introduced herself. "This marker shows the current location of the quantum fluctuations we believe indicate the Consumption's return." "How certain are you of this identification?" asked one of the council members. 93% confidence, Dr. Wong replied. "The signature matches what we recorded before the first appearance, with some variations that suggest it may have evolved." "Evolved?" Thraxus leaned forward, his ridge plates shifting with concern. How can such an entity evolve? The 3rd military officer, a woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes, answered. "Admiral Hannah Okafor, Earth Strategic Command. We believe the Consumption learns from each encounter. After the colony at New Jakarta was destroyed, the entity changed its approach, becoming more difficult to detect until it was almost upon the next target, which suggests intelligence," Lox observed. "Or adaptation," Dr. Wong countered. "Like a virus mutating to overcome defenses. We don't have enough data to determine consciousness." Eliana studied the map. "How long until it reaches inhabited space?" "At current speed, approximately 6 months, Dr. Wong said. But that assumes it maintains its current trajectory and velocity. Last time it accelerated as it approached populated systems. Then we have little time to prepare," Admiral Jen stated. "The Union Council has authorized a joint defense initiative, drawing on all member species technologies and tactical expertise. With respect, Admiral," Secretary Chen said, "we've been preparing for this possibility for 70 years. Earth has developed specialized weapons designed to combat the Consumption without sacrificing entire worlds." Eliana felt a surge of hope. "You have? What kind of weapons?" Admiral Karev gestured, and the holographic display changed to show schematics of massive orbital platforms. Quantum resonance cannons. They generate the same energy signature that damaged the consumption when our colonies were destroyed, but in a controlled, directed beam. Have they been tested? Fexler asked. In simulation only, Admiral Okafor admitted. We couldn't risk a live test that might attract the consumption's attention before we were ready. Then we don't know if they'll work, Thraxus pointed out. No, Admiral Karev agreed. But they're based on the most complete data we have, and they represent a better option than sacrificing more worlds. The Union can contribute significant resources to improve these weapons, Admiral Jen said. Our combined scientific knowledge far exceeds what Earth alone possesses. That's why we're here, Secretary Chen confirmed. To share everything we know and to integrate our defenses with the Union's. The meeting continued for hours as the Earth delegation shared the full details of humanity's 70-year preparation for the consumption's return. Eliana listened intently, absorbing the information with a mixture of pride and sorrow. Her people had carried this burden alone for so long, developing weapons and strategies in secret while presenting a face of peaceful cooperation to the Union. When they finally took a break, Eliana found herself standing beside Dr. Wong at the refreshment station. May I ask you something, Doctor? Eliana said quietly. Of course, Cadet. Was it worth it? The secrecy, the isolation? Wouldn't it have been better to tell the Union the truth from the beginning? Dr. Wong considered the question seriously. It's easy to second-guess decisions made in the aftermath of tragedy. The leaders who classified the consumption had just watched billions of their people die. They feared the Union might reject Earth's membership if the truth were known, or worse, that they might be held accountable for those deaths by species who couldn't understand the impossible choice they faced. And now we need the Union as much as they need us. Dr. Wong's expression was solemn. The quantum resonance cannons are our best hope, but they may not be enough. The consumption may have adapted to that frequency. We need new ideas, new approaches, like what I did in the simulation, Eliana realized, adapting to changing conditions instead of relying on a single strategy. Exactly. Dr. Wong nodded. Human tactics combined with Union technology might give us an advantage we wouldn't have separately. When the meeting reconvened, Admiral Zhen addressed the group with renewed purpose. Based on the information shared today, I am proposing a new initiative. The Academy will establish a specialized division focused exclusively on countering the consumption, drawing cadets and instructors from all species. Earth supports this proposal, Secretary Chen said immediately. Who will lead this division? Asked one of the council members. Admiral Zhen looked directly at Eliana. I am recommending Senior Cadet Reyes for the position of Tactical Coordinator, working alongside instructors from each major Union species. Eliana felt her breath catch. Admiral, I'm honored, but I'm still a cadet. Surely there are more experienced officers? Experience with conventional warfare may be a disadvantage in this case, Commander Vexler interrupted. We need fresh thinking, adaptability, the very qualities you demonstrated in your simulation. And you've already proven your ability to work with diverse species, Thraxus added, surprising Eliana with his support. Even those who initially opposed you, Admiral Karev nodded in agreement. Earth's military leadership concurs with this recommendation. Cadet Reyes represents the best of human adaptive strategy without being bound by outdated tactical doctrine. Admiral Zhen looked around the circle. Are there any objections to this appointment? The room remained silent. Then it's decided. Senior Cadet, no. Acting Commander Reyes will coordinate the tactical division of the Consumption Response Initiative. Effective immediately. Eliana straightened in her chair, feeling the weight of this new responsibility. I accept, Admiral. Thank you for your trust. Don't thank me yet, Admiral Zhen said with grim humor. You now have the unenviable task of preparing the Union to face an enemy that has already claimed billions of lives. She won't face it alone, Thraxus said firmly. His previously hostile attitude had transformed into respectful collaboration. None of us will. The meeting concluded with the establishment of working groups and communication protocols.